taking time out of our busy life. I pray that we're taking time out of our day to pray for nations. I pray that you're taking time out, even though we may have our own battles that we're fighting. It is worthy still to take the time out to pray for another person in which you may not even know, right? And you pray for someone that lives near you, someone that lives in your city, outside of your city. Pray for those that you don't know in other countries, and you pray for their safety, just like you would want somebody that may not know you personally, but to come and pray for the safety of your household and come and pray for the safety of your children. I pray that we are all anchored together as a collective body, regardless of where we call our home church, right? Where we call our home spiritual relationships. Regardless of that, I pray that we all are covering one another. So if you hear this today, if you're on social media, you hear this next week, I pray that you take time out of your busy life to pray for someone else, to cover another family that's going through terrorisms, and families that are living in fear, and family, whether that terrorism is homegrown, domestic, or whether that terrorism is international. But I pray that you pray for someone else's safety as you would want them to pray for yours. So that is just my urgent reminder this morning. But let's get into the message we have today. We are in celebrating here in the U.S. Women's History Month. So we're highlighting all the many wonderful ways that women throughout history, and of course, I'm talking about women in our Bible, but still in our present life, we have women and we have advances right now, and we have certain protections as women, and we have certain freedoms as women collectively that were gained because another woman did something, because a woman before us stood up and voiced and took her rightful place and advocated for someone else that did something that women were not collectively doing at that particular time, that another woman paved the way for the protections and the freedoms that women have today. And women are still doing that. That legacy of leadership in women, it continues today. It continues in many, many ways that we live out here in this earth. So we are to highlight and be mindful and celebrate the women that came before us, that paved the way for women to just be seen, and for women to just be heard, and for women to just be counted as a whole human, right? So, and for women to be counted as someone who's worthy to participate, worthy to lead, and worthy to give. And women are in many, many places of leadership because we can find women in leadership in our Bible. So still today, that legacy of leadership with women continues. How women lead their homes, how women lead in the marketplaces, how women lead in business, how women lead in community service. Like all of these things we can find in our present day because women, our ancestors, my ancestors, paved the way, your ancestors paved the way, and we can find that lineage traced all the way back to biblical times. So today I just want to briefly highlight a woman that is so significant in our Bible, and she is Mary Magdalene. So today I want to give honor to Mary Magdalene. She is a female disciple of Jesus. And when we look at discipleship, we are often reminded of the 12 disciples, the 12 men that walked with Jesus. But when you read your text, there were the 12 apostles, the 12 disciples that walked with Jesus in ministry, but there were also women alongside them that walked with them in ministry that Jesus felt was a significant part of allowing his ministry work to be completed in that day. So there were women in fellowship with Jesus, just as there were men in fellowship with Jesus. And that was a kind of a strange thing for that time because women were not known to be in that strength of leadership, but Jesus changed that, right? And we can read in our Old Testament about women who led and women who had changed the world because of their beliefs. And Jesus wanted to make sure that that remained. He wanted to make sure that that was highlighted, that women were seen as contributors to the kingdom of God in this in our earth realm. So this woman, Mary Magdalene, she was a female disciple of Jesus. Again, I know we rest discipleship on men because we're often taught that before we can go back and read the Bible for ourselves. But there were women alongside Jesus as well. So Mary Magdalene is honored as the first witness to Jesus' resurrection, the first one who saw that he was gone and ran to report it, as we can read in our Bible. But she's also an early leader in Christianity. And it reminds us that I want to highlight her because women were, as we can look at our history here on this earth and our ancestral lineages and what women, the ways that women have carved out for other women, it still it happened in the beginning. It happened in historical biblical times. Women were and women still are powerful carriers of the gospel. Like, if you don't hear the rest of what I'm about to share, just know that women were and women still are present day, continuing that legacy of leadership to be powerful carriers of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And this particular woman name was Mary Magdalene. Mary, and oftentimes, if you're not clearly reading your text and if you're just listening and not reading for yourself and not seeking understanding for yourself, you may get tripped up to think that Mary is a different Mary. But Mary was a very, very common name in first century Jewish culture. A lot of the women were named Mary. A lot of women were named Mary. It was just a name that they felt was significant in that particular day. So we have so many Marys. So they had to a lot of time give context and try to differentiate what Mary is what Mary, what's significant about this Mary, and how can we nickname this particular Mary so we know which Mary we're actually talking about. But unlike other women in the Bible, Mary was not introduced through her family connections. Remember, when we go back and when we look at the book of Kings, and when we go back into other portions of the Old Testament, men and women were known by their family lineage. You can read the Bible and it'll tell you, well, this person was born to this person, this is their cousin, this is their granddaddy, this is the tribe they came from, this person where they lived. All of these things, they tell you about the whole family connection. We can see the genealogy in the Bible. But Mary was not introduced to us through her family's connections. She was introduced to us so we can remember her based on where she was from. So this Mary was introduced to us based on where she was from, and she was from this fishing village in the sea, on the Sea of Galilee, along the Sea of Galilee. You have different villages. She was known from a fishing village called Magdala. So now we say this is Mary. She's from Magdala. So that's why they named her Mary Magdalene. So Mary from Magdala, this little village called Magdala, they named her Mary Magdalene so we can differentiate which Mary we're talking about. We're talking about the Mary from here. We're talking about the Mary from this village. We're talking about Mary from Magdala. So, but Mary became this powerful follower of Jesus. When she met him, he healed her. Oh my goodness. When she met him, when she came to know Jesus, he healed her. He met her at the most devastating point of her life. He met her at the lowest point of her life. That's why she loved him so much. We can read our Bible and read about how she was so loyal and connected. She listened for every single word he said. She was infatuated by him. She was willing to serve his ministry because she believed firsthand and she saw firsthand the power that this man was holding. When he met her, she was struggling. She was defeated. Mary Magdalene, she was freed by Jesus from 7 demons. And you can write down the book of Luke. You go into Luke chapter 8. You can see how he freed her when he met her from 7 demons. 7 demons. I'm telling you, that knowing that alone tells us that she knew what hardship and bondage and struggle felt like. This woman knew what it was to be bound. She knew what it was to be not herself. She knew what it was to struggle with demonic entities. She knew what it was to have certain levels of psychosis. She knew what it was to lose her mind. She knew what it was to not be able to want to do what's right, but don't have the power to do what's right and continue to do wrong because she's struggling with these demonic entities. She knew what it was like to be overwhelmed by deep darkness. Deep darkness. She knew what that was like to be physically and mentally sick. She knew what that was like. And I'm like, wow, this woman, Jesus met her. She was struggling with all types of things. And I'm telling you, those 7 demons, when sometimes we can look at our own life and we can count our own struggles. We can count the particular things that we struggle with. This woman counted hers to 7. We may can count more or we may can count less, but we can look at our own life and say, man, Jesus met me when I was struggling with this. He showed up in my life when I was struggling with this, that, and or another. I had this particular issue and I was overwhelmed by it. It overwhelmed me. It weighed me down. It contained me. I couldn't see light because I was dealing with this darkness in my life. Jesus came in and saw my secrets. When it comes to Mary Magdalene, Jesus came in and immediately saw this woman's secrets, immediately saw that her appearance was the result of what was happening on the inside of her. And oh my goodness, when you look at the number 7 in Jewish tradition, number 7, it means completion. It means completion. Jesus met this woman. The Bible tells us that she was struggling and he freed her of 7 demons. Now she's complete. Now what Jesus did is restored her and to her whole self. And whatever the case, Jesus freed her from emotional and psychological trauma. The Bible does not, this Bible is so interesting. It does not tell us, it tells us we have so many accounts of this woman, but it does not tell us exactly what she was dealing with. It does not give deep descriptions of these particular strongholds. So it forces us not to focus on the particulars, but it forces us to look at the fact that she was dealing with demonic things. And we too can look at our life and say the same thing about ourselves. I kind of like the fact that it did not let us hone into exactly what this woman was dealing with, exactly what age she started dealing with it, or all of these things. It let us know that she had struggles, and when Jesus was finished with her, she was free. And that's what we can account for our life, and that's the hope that we have for other people's lives. And look, Jesus will meet you where you are, and whatever you're struggling with, he will heal you and you can be free. And over the course of time, you will gain more freedoms. The Bible tells us that this woman was free from 7 demons. The Bible does not tell us exactly how many came out at exactly a particular time that Jesus was freeing her and casting these demons out of her. And I love that because we know that she became free. We know that she met a new group of people. We know that she met a new family. She grew to have what we call a church family. Now she had a ministry family. Now she had a reason to live. Now she had people in which she can serve. The woman now had a mission for her life. And the mission for her life is to support Jesus' ministry, because I know he has saved my life and I need him to be able to do this for somebody else. So whatever I can do to support, I'm going to do that. And I take that context into my own life, and I hope you do too, that look, I've had an encounter with the Lord and he freed me from some things. And I know that power, I know that strength. So whatever I have to do to submit myself to him so that someone else can come along and know that same power and know that same strength and receive deliverance and receive healing. I want them to have it so that they can be free and they can meet a new group of people. They can meet a new family. They can meet a new community, and they can serve in ways in which they can serve so that, again, the cycle will continue and another person will find Jesus and they will be healed by Jesus, and they will want that cycle to continue. So they will do their best to support Jesus, so that Jesus' mission, so that others can be free. Oh my goodness. That's why this woman was so loyal to him, because of what he'd done in her life. She made that her mission to make sure that other people could experience his ministry. After he healed her, she began to financially support his ministry. Oh, I love the Bible, because the Bible tells us that she supported him. So this woman had to have some money. But the Bible does not tell us exactly how she got this money. The Bible tells us she was from this village. It doesn't tell us how rich her parents were. It doesn't tell us that, because the Bible like mind your business. What you need to know is that after he healed her, she supported his ministry. She supported him financially. That's how she responded to her healing, was ongoing support for his ministry. She helped prepare meals. She funded the journeys. And, I think about that because oftentimes we get tricked to think that ministry doesn't need financial support. We say, well, why they need my money? They got God. Why they need my money? They got Jesus. Jesus needed people's money, right? Knowing that he could still make a way for them to get money. He can make a way for them to become rich when they're poor. But it was still funding that was needed for the journeys. They had the animals. They had to make sure they can get the animals, feed the animals, have places to sleep. All of these things, have food for everybody, all of that. So ministry does take finances. And when it does not have finances, the ministry can't grow. Point blank. Ministry needs finances. Jesus' ministry was financed by people that supported the mission, but supported the ministry, supported the needs of the ministry. This woman traveled alongside other women also who supported Jesus' ministry. She wasn't the only woman. When you read the Bible, you see that she was not the only woman that was walking with Jesus and the other male disciples. Mary just was listed as one of the women who supported him the most, because she was more wealthy. She was able to provide more finances, and she listened to and she understood what he was saying. But other women were getting liberated also in this society. That's why women followed Jesus, because Jesus started giving women greater liberation than they had ever had in their society. And when he hung on the cross, this woman, Mary Magdelene, she stood at the foot of that cross. She refused to walk away when Jesus was in his darkest moments. When he was on that road, she refused to walk away. She stayed near the cross when the guys left. The guys fled. Some fled out of fear that they was going to be arrested, that they was going to be hung up on the cross. So they ran and they hid. They ran away, but this woman stood there. This woman stood there. Also, how we should do. This woman gave an example of what we should do when someone else is in pain and when someone else is suffering. She stood there while Jesus was in pain. She stood there while Jesus was suffering. And we too should do the same thing. We got a whole war going on. A whole war going on. And it's going to cause people to be in pain. It's going to cause resources to dry up. It is going to cause people to be without because things cost more. All of these things, job loss, it's so many repercussions of war. Healthcare is so many repercussions of war. So we too have to be reminded that we are to stay present when someone else is in pain and offer care and resources that we have. Sometimes the best gift we can offer to someone that's hurting is to just remain present. Oh my goodness. I'm going to say that again. This woman, Mary Magdalene, reminds us as she stood on the cross. If she stood at the foot of the cross where Jesus was in pain and Jesus was suffering and all the dudes ran, but this woman stood there, and she reminds us that we too have to be present when other people are suffering, and we too got to offer care and resources to other people that are in need. And the best thing we can do sometimes is to just be present. It's to just remain. It doesn't even have to be a lot of words. It doesn't even have to be a lot that you can offer tangibly. But the best thing you can do is allow a person to share with you, allow a person to talk, and allow them to know that you will be a listening ear. Sometimes it's simply best to just remain present. And that's what Mary Magdalene did with Jesus. She remained present. And when he was crucified, she watched him. She watched him be buried. She gathered the custom spices of that day to anoint his body. She went to the tomb when other folks were still hiding out of fear. When the dudes ran and hid, she was still there. And when she realized that what he said he was going to do, he did it, that he rose and he was resurrected. When she saw him, Jesus told her, look, don't cling to me. Remember, Jesus told her, don't cling to me, but go to my brothers and say. And you can find that in John. In John, Jesus tell her, book of John 20, Jesus said, don't cling to me, but go to my brothers. Go to my brothers and say to them. So this tells us that Mary was sent to the other apostles. She became an apostle to the other apostles. And then her words changed history forever. What this woman said changed history forever. She told them folks she seen the Lord. She told them folks that she saw the man that they saw being killed, that she seen him. And that rocked the world. And to back her up, because Jesus knew that they wouldn't fully believe a woman, so to back her up, he let himself be shown to men. And he let himself be shown to hundreds of people after that. So she was present with Jesus at hot moments, at high, when it was the stakes were high, when at pivotal moments. She was present with him when he was crucified. Like I say, when the other disciples ran away, she was with him. When she was buried, she watched him be laid in his tomb, and she was with him on the third day when she discovered that the tomb was empty. I'm telling you, she was seen. When you read your Bible, you will see that she was seen as Jesus' closest disciple. She understood what he was saying, and that caused sometimes a little tension with the dudes, especially with Peter, because this is a woman, and again, women were of lesser status. So, and the men saw that Jesus was giving her what they would call like extra teachings. So they kind of, was envious of that. But she still knew that she still had to mend the fences between her and the men. So she ran to them and did what she was told after she saw Jesus. So Mary, it's so much to say about her, but she did not leave, that is known to us and known to me, any writings of her own behind. Like we know that there were, like Apostle Paul left all these writings, and other people left all these writings. Mary Magdalene did not, as I know, leave any writings behind, but her life teaches us many, many lessons. And some of these lessons, I'm going to close with these lessons that we can learn. We all can learn, male and female, from the life of Mary from Magdala. She teaches us that healing and recovery is possible. Yes, healing and recovery of your life is possible. She teaches us that no matter what is against you, that it is possible for healing, that you do not have to stay as you are, because we serve the chain breaker. We serve the healer. We serve the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings. We serve the one who knows us from A to Z. We serve the creator of this body, creator of humanity. So whatever is going on in this body, we know the one who created it, and we can offer it back to him so that he can heal it from whatever manner it needs to be healed from. Healing and recovery is always possible. This woman knew that if Jesus can heal her from all her demons, then he can do it for someone else. So there's no chain that he can't break from our lives. There's no level of oppression that he can not free us from. There's no level of sickness that God cannot heal us from. Does everyone get healed? No. We can know that because the bodies are piling up in the graveyard, but that the possibility of healing is always there. But we all have our number of days, right? So we can't live forever. But there is healing in our bodies that when it's not our time to go, God will heal us from that manner of sickness. There's no chain, again, that he can't break from your life. There's no issue that God cannot step into. There's nothing in your life that's so broken that God cannot fix it. There's no level of abuse or trauma that God cannot recover you from. And what we also know is that being faithful to God, it matters. The legacy that you build in your life regarding faithfulness to Jesus and his teachings, it matters. The life that God wants you to live, it matters if you live it that way or not. It matters if you stay at the foot of the cross. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, it matters if you're going through issues in your life. It matters if you say, look, I'm going through something and I don't know what to do with it, but I'm going to hang on to Jesus. I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to stay here at the foot of this thing. I'm going to stay at the base of this thing. I'm going to make sure that my foundation is built up in Christ, and I'm going to just hang in there. I'm going to hold on to Jesus with all I got, and I'm going to keep praying about this thing. I'm going to keep asking God to come in. I'm going to keep seeking God until I'm blessed, till this thing that's weighing me down, until this thing that's bothering me, until this thing that's pressing me, oppressing me, is traumatizing me, that's dealing with my mind, until this thing frees me. I'm going to keep praying until this thing frees me. I'm going to keep worshiping until I'm free of this thing, until I'm delivered from it. I'm going to keep worshiping. That's what Mary Magdalene taught us, to stay right there, to just remain with God, even if you don't understand what he's doing, to just remain with God, even if you have no clue of what season that you're in, to just remain with God, even if you're hearing conflicted stories and people that's supposed to know the word are confusing you. You just remain with God. You seek him for yourself. I'm telling you, your faithfulness matters. You saying no to things you did not previously say no to, it matters. It matters. You going dipping back into old sins, it matters. Your life is hinging on it. I'm begging you to stay at the cross. I'm begging you to remain. I'm begging you to stay right there. Show that love for Christ. Don't flee because your life get hard. We have to show that we love God so much we're not going to run away because we're having bad days. We're not going to disrespect his word because we're struggling for a moment. And I'm telling you, her life teaches us to walk in courage, to be relentless about the good news of Jesus Christ, and to be light bearers, to share the news of Jesus. And I'm telling you, Mary's life reminds us that, man, we don't have to be perfect to serve him. It reminds us that this gospel is not reserved for people or things that are perfect or just the powerful or privileged people. It tells us that it's reserved for people who are broken, people that God gonna heal and make whole by Jesus Christ. That's why the Bible gives us such limited information for her, because it doesn't want us to think that it's reserved for the perfect, powerful, privileged people. Even though we know she had resources, we don't really know exactly how she get those. The Bible just wants us to know that this gospel is for folks that were oppressed, and now Jesus is gonna make them free. We need to be faithful in every season of our life. We got to be faithful when we feel like we're hanging on a cross in this life, when we feel like we're bearing this cross, when we feel like we done died in the tomb. We don't got nothing left, no more life to give. We can't do nothing. And we also need to be faithful when we feel like we're getting victories in this life. I'm taking like Mary Magdalene, we need to speak of what we had seen. That's all this woman did. She believed what he said. She spoke about what she's seen, what he's done in her life. We got to speak about what we've seen. We got to tell people when God forgave us, when he answered our prayers, when he helped us with that habit, when he renewed our strength, when we felt weak, when he helped us in loss and grief. And even if it's a tiny, tiny testimony, we got to tell it, because it's going to encourage someone else's heart, and it's going to provide hope to someone else of a new day. So I pray that you've gained these lessons from Mary, and that you take it into account to make sure that you examine your life and how you're living and moving in this earth, and look at what she can teach us, and that you embody that. You look at this woman that was so profound in our history, and let her legacy live on through you by speaking about the things that you have seen and the things that Jesus has done in your life, and committing your life to the cause of Christ and supporting ministry, so that it's heard throughout all the corners and all of the land in this earth. Come on, let's pray. Dear God, I just thank you for your loving kindness and your grace, Father. I thank you for allowing us to be present.